Everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is July 21st and we have Jerome Powell in front of Congress answering questions about Fednow. This is going to be a Fednow update. Without further ado, let's do it. This is Congressman Loudermilk. Not my favorite last name, but this is him talking to Jerome Powell about Fednow and what they're looking at.
And I also want to continue voicing my concern that this product is a solution to a problem that the private sector is already addressing. The RTP network is... Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Powell, good to see you again. Thank you for being back here. I want to continue a dialogue that you and I had about Fednow. And I also want to continue voicing my concern that this product is a solution to a problem that the private sector is already addressing. The RTP network is already capable of instant settlement with
RTP is RealTime Payment Network, okay?
With a much greater degree of connectivity than Fednow will have at launch next month or in years to come. And my concern is also that the Fed has an undeniable advantage over the private sector in the payment space as it can clear transactions through Fed master accounts. Furthermore, the Fed already has options to improve transaction speeds through existing services. For example, the Fed has discussed extending the operation hours for the National Settlement Service since 2015. So first question is, why not respond to industry demand by improving existing services instead of launching a new one that can compete with private industry?
We, as you may remember, we surveyed all of the banks, not just the large banks who stood up RTP, which was a very positive development that we supported. And overwhelmingly, the smaller banks wanted us to set up Fednow. This was a very overwhelming view among smaller banks. They wanted a Fed alternative to RTP. So we set it up. And I would agree with you. That is not a reason not to work on the efficiency of our other payment services. And I hope we're doing that. I mean, I know we're doing that.
So we had also discussed in the past about setting up some guardrails to protect customers from accidental or fraudulent transactions. And we know that's a big issue across the entire financial services sector. And in response to that, you know that the banks already have procedures for customers to report unintentional transactions, and Fednow will come up with a suite of features as well to help institutions investigate and remedy any unintentional or fraudulent transactions. However, with real-time settlements, this becomes a whole lot more difficult than just debiting the account that received funds by mistake. Can you elaborate on how you're going to handle this protection?
Yes, and of course, RTP faces the exact same issues. I mean, it's a problem with real-time payments. You just have to have very high, extra high levels of security around the payments, who the payee is, and that sort of thing. And we do think we can master that and build that in, as any faster payment.
Do you have any ideas of the direction that you're looking to go? How are you going to be able to resolve those? Or is this just something you're beginning to look into?
No, I think we've built very strong safeguards in. I can't give you the technology answer.
Okay.
We'll be happy to supply that.
Yeah, if you could supply that, I appreciate it. Just a couple other questions. Will the Federal Reserve itself use Fednow for real-time payments between banks and in the system?
I'm sorry, will it?
Are you going to use the Fednow for real-time payments between banks within the system?
Yes, I mean, that's what it's for. It's supposed. It's an interbank payment system that.
Okay, guys, this is, of course, people in Congress not being read up on what actually is going on. And if they watch this channel, they might have a better understanding. Fednow is replacing Fedwire. Fedwire processes 4.2 trillion about domestically. This is a domestic payment system. This is not international. This is just inside of the US. So that is what the Federal Reserve is going to use that. Yes. Wow. All right.
It allows banks to offer real-time payments to their customers.
Okay, so with that, let me go diverge just a little bit. I've dealt with in the past at state level with government competing with private industry. We run into this problem where the government has an undeniable advantage. In this case, it had to deal with internet services, where city governments had gotten involved in internet servicing and started competing against private providers. And the issue came that the city governments were undercutting the private providers because of the pole access fee. So we passed legislation in the state of Georgia that required that any municipal government that provides a service that competes with private industry has to assess themselves the same fees. So with that in mind, will transactions between Federal Reserve banks be subject to the same rules and fees as other banks? Are you going to charge yourself the same fees that the private industry and abide by the same rules as the private industry?
I don't know the answer to that. I will say I wouldn't advocate in the payment space. There are many instances of a government-operated payment system operating side by side with a private sector one. It was not something I would advocate broadly for in the economy. You think about ACH, you think about Fedwire. There are private sector and public sector payment utilities operating next to each other in the United States and around the world.
Okay. Thank you.
So he's talking about companies like ACI Worldwide. He's talking about Finastra. He's talking about Volante. Those are those public-private partnerships working inside of Fedwire, okay? So also, too, let me show you this. There's a couple more clips here. This one's a little bit less and a little bit more to the point. Let's play this.
I don't know.
Could you get that answer back to us? Okay, thanks. So when I think about some of the dynamics that are going on in the market related to banks, non-banks, securities, non-securities, One agency in particular has been very activist in this place over at the SEC, and it's tangentially related to the Fed. But crypto and digital assets in the U.S. has got a market cap of around $1.1 trillion right now. It's been there for a bit. Do you acknowledge that this asset class has staying power in the U.S. economy?
It appears to have some staying power. Of course, that 1.1 trillion was, what was that a year ago? A lot higher.
Yeah, it's had some volatility in large measure due to the lack of legal clarity. And so hopefully this committee will help that quite a lot here this summer with at least two bills, one on stable coins and one on market structure. And it'll be clear, not just for Congress, but for regulators, including Chairman Gensler, and obviously market participants, whether they're in the ideas or investing in the ideas or participating in the activities.
All right, so crypto's here to stay. We know that. Jerome Powell just said that. So also, guys, real-time payments, if you want to look this up yourself, you can go to clearinghouse.org, payment system, RTP. So that's what they were talking about here, the difference between RTP and Fednow, okay? I want to show you this, though, too. In the Loudermilk thing, he talked about a master account. I just want to show you what a master account is. A master account is the record of financial rights and obligations of an account holder in the administrative reserve bank or any other reserve bank maintaining a master account as permitted by operating Circular 1 with respect to each other where opening, intraday and closing balances are determined. So I just want to go over that. And then this is also a pretty decent clip. Let me just play this and we'll move on.
Relating to a central bank digital currency or any federal issued coin. We have seen how this administration and the last Congress wanted to require anyone who made more than $600 on a third-party settlement organization like an eBay purchase has to report that to the IRS.
That's some bullshit.
The existing threshold before the law was modified was $20,000.
Yeah.
That is how far this administration wants to peek behind the curtain of what my constituents are spending their money on. And $600 in Iowa doesn't go a long way. It's the equivalent of a PlayStation or paying for your kids' dance classes. I'm a dad of 6. I digress on this, but I do want to know specifically for my constituents back home, the thoughts of creating a central bank digital currency that tracks individuals. If the Fed were to offer a direct individual account to citizens, wouldn't this be a direct threat to the financial privacy of many Americans?
Potentially, and that's why we would not, it's not something we support. We would not support accounts at the Federal Reserve by individuals. That would not be. If we were to, and we're a long way from this, if we were to support at some point in the future a CBDC, it would be one that were intermediated through the banking system and not directly at the Fed for exactly the reason you point out.
I'm very happy to hear that. I think that's a good partnership with the individuals there and a respect for Americans across the board.
All right, so let's continue on here. So also, Ripple's Ryan Zagone speaking at FinTech conference by New York Fed on wholesale digital assets mentions Fednow. So let's listen to this. We got some juicy Fednow information here. And this is the guy from the IMF. This is Ross. I think his name's Ross. This is the guy that was on stage with Brad Garlinghouse, and I've shown that clip multiple times on this channel. But let me play this, and I'm going to actually show you a full picture of the IMF and Brad Garlinghouse and Jess Chang. And I don't know if Ryan's going there, but let me play this.
Faster payments in the UK is a good example. SEP Instant, a good example. You can pay out an international transfer over those domestic rails that are instant. Really encouraged in the US to see real-time payments through the clearinghouse live, Fednow moving ahead rather quickly. Very good movements. What we would like to see as the next step is to allow international payments to be paid out over those rails.
So just a reminder, guys, Fednow is just a domestic payment system. It doesn't deal with international. So what he's talking about here is updating the Fednow system to work on international transactions. And we all know the best company for international transfers between banks is probably Ripple, right? Cheaper, faster, more secure, and everything is out in the open that banks can see, and they can use a private ledger.
Today, the scheme rules for those two rails do not allow international payments to be paid out. So as we go to pay out in the US to recipients in the US, we can't make a payment over those rails. So we think a good and a prudent approach is to launch just domestic. That makes sense. But to expand those rules out to then also allow for international payouts, much like you see is done successfully in the UK and other markets. And then finally, our last policy priority is around transparency. Wise, a key part of our growth has been that we show the total cost to customers. We don't have any margin hidden in the FX rate. So you see your total cost and you can take that and compare to other providers to know exactly what you'll pay. It differs from some other providers in the market that will advertise free payments or a $5 fee.
All right, let's keep it going. I got another clip here from the same.
Scott, real quick, I have to say real quickly that if you're doing a Signet transaction, then you could be transferring, as I said, anywhere from subsidiaries, counterparties. But if you want to go off of that rail and you want to now transfer to a non-client of Signature Bank, you need to access currently the FedWire system or some other rail. Fednow would actually be a big help to allowing faster, much faster switching from a Signet environment to transferring to some other non-client entity.
But what would be the advantage of the Cigna over Fednow if Fednow does 24/7?
I think there's going to be I think that there will be, I don't think Fednow will probably be used for sort of individual, my sense is it's not going to be used in the same way for mass individual transactions. It'll be much more akin to Fedwire from everything I can see.
I don't think very much for us. I'm sorry. I don't see it as being a big change. We're integrated with, obviously, a number of firms that we go through their payment gateways. So for us, we would pass from our ledger to the existing firm's payment gateways, and then they'll take through to the Fednow.
We would see a benefit from the ability to pay out in the U.S. instantly. So this would be a key advantage in speed for all of our overseas customers that are paying into the U.S., pending the scheme rules allowing for international transfers to be dispersed over it. So that, I think, is a key goal. I understand the importance of launching it prudently, just domestic. That's rational. But as that system matures, to expand to international.
Yeah, you definitely want to expand. And so I want to show you the numbers, because I am about facts, not about hearsay, not about bullshit. Let's look at the numbers. So I looked up the Federal Reserve annual numbers for payments, and this is updated January 24th, 2023. So this is 2022, and this is average daily volume in millions. So 4.2 million millions is 4.2 trillion. And this is daily, right, guys? Average daily transfers of 4.2 trillion. That's how much money moves through the federal government wire system, which is going to become the Fednow system every single day. All right, and then check this out. Fednow, faster Fedwire. Fedwire does 1 quadrillion settlement transactions in 15 zeros. It says those wholesale services consist of the Fedwire Funds Service, the Fedwire Security Service. So Fedwire Securities is 1.3 trillion per day. So that's 5.5 trillion a day in just those two services. And this is the National Settlement Service. Collectively, these services constitute the franchise when it comes to the financial market infrastructure of the United States. That may sound like a bold assertion, but not too unreasonable one, reflecting at least 4 considerations. First, transactional value in 2015 was processed in the excess of $1 quadrillion. And it's going to be higher, right? Because if you're moving $5 trillion a day in value, that's going to be over $1 quadrillion a day. Ripple partner ACI discussing their involvement in Fednow. Check this out.
Real-time payments is the heart of the new global payments landscape, which is evolving rapidly. And Fednow in the US is Federal Reserve's first major new payment initiative that's coming out in North America in recent years. ACI has been the leader in the real-time payments across the world, and we currently support 18 real-time domestic schemes around the world, including Zelle, TCH, and now Fednow with our recent launch. So this partnership between Fednow and ACI is really valuable as we bring in this invaluable insights into the Fednow working group that would help drive the adoption and growth of this new payment type.
ACI, as you're well aware, has been a pioneer and a leader in payments, as well as real-time payments over a long period of time. And as such, we bring a wealth of experience to the work group, the Federal Reserve RFP work group, because of all the use cases and edge cases and requirements that we've seen around the world. So with that, the partnership with the Federal Reserve to get RFP off the ground is going to be extremely beneficial, mutually beneficial for both ACI.
All right, and let me show you this real quick. You know what? I'm going to get it right there, but I'm going to show you this. Check this out. Let me show you the partners that are connected to Fednow, because that's what you want to understand. Finastra, Ripple partner, connected to Fednow, right? Here you go. Ripple partners with world's third largest fintech firm, Finastra. TerraPay. TerraPay is a Ripple partner, not connected to Fednow, but TerraPay has 7.5 billion bank accounts and 2.1 million mobile wallets, and their average transaction speed is under a minute in Ripple. All right, and I just want to show you that. I mean, you know about Amazon and all these other banks too that are connected to Ripple, but ACI is a big Ripple partner, and you want to pay attention. 6,000 customers globally, 45 years of expertise, 25 billion cloud transactions processed annually, 225 billion consumer transactions processed annually. That's a lot. That's a lot. And then you have Accenture, right? Accenture is another one. So guys, when we're looking at all these different things that the Fednow system can use, I mean, if they start using any of these other systems like ACI or whatever, and they use Ripple, that money's going to go through the XRP ledger, isn't it? That's just how I look at it. I could be wrong. They could start not using Ripple, but it's all about cost for these guys and cost savings, right? If you're a bank and you can save 60 to 80% using DLT, using Ripple, using ODL to move that value, are you going to do it? I mean, I don't know how much longer banks can hang out not doing this. I mean, if somebody walked up to you and said, hey man, all that money you're spending a month, I can save you 60 to 80%. You don't have to really do anything different. Just use this other service. What are you going to do? Like, that's a lot of money. You're talking billions and billions of dollars annually for these banks to save. Are they going to do it? Yeah. When is the flip of the switch going to happen? That is the real question, and that's what we are waiting for. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this update on Fednow, some CBDC info in there as well, and some Jerome Powell info. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you made it to the end of the video. I love you very much. Give me an aloha in the comments so I know you made it through, and I will be sure to return your comments. I try to answer everything I can. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye. All this content and you want to really take your learning experience and supercharge it, think about becoming a Cryptonaires member. I will take your crypto knowledge and I will 10x it. It's what I do every day. I focus, I really pay attention to what's being used globally, and we talk about this and I show you the proof. I bring you the information so you can make a better educated decision on what you want to do with your life, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy who loves crypto and I love sharing it with you.